Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morganroth. I'm your host tonight, the Motor City Madmouth. Well, we have a good crew line up. Before I introduce the crew, I just want to give everybody an overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Yes, the NFL Scouting Combine. Where are the top prospects coming from? Balance of power in college football. And in my opinion, there's no better time to do it because they're in Indianapolis right now. What we're going to do all night is list a lot of the schools and how many invites that they have, and then we'll break them down by how many. And then I've already, when you get to the ones and twos and threes, and I've picked out a few that'll be very interesting. So we hope that everybody can go out there and stay on for the rest of the show. I'm very confident that you're going to learn a great deal. So with that said, I just want to let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. So there you go. You can hear the audio side. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. But we're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Also, before I turn it over to Jeremy for his thing with the YouTube size, want to be a guest? No problem. Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. And also, if you want to advertise, call 954-304-4941. All right, Jeremy, give us that little. Well, before you do that, I'm going to introduce the crew. Candy, welcome back.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Well, Vogel had a good first act on Monday night, so why not have a second one, right? Well,
yes, sir. Love talking all sports.
And of course, my superstar, Mel Farr, superstar broadcaster, Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back, Mel.
Great to be back. Hello, everyone.
And Smoking Jeremy B., the guy that I move all over the map. Welcome back.
Always glad to be here. And don't forget, when you subscribe to the channel, to like the video and to share it with all your sports fans.
Now, I will give you one little hint here. I'm wearing University of South Florida cap as well as a shirt. Unfortunately, USF doesn't have anybody at the combine, but there is hope for next year if we can have a good year under a new coach. With that said, we'll get her rolling here. I'm going to break everything down by invites, okay? And then after that, I'll go to the other ones as we go on, and I've picked a few out. So is this any surprise that Alabama has the most invites at 13?
Yes.
What's that?
I'd say yes.
Really? 13 is...
Look how they finished. I mean, they weren't in the college playoff. I mean, we know their pipeline. Their pipeline to the NFL. I mean, I guess yes and no. They didn't play up to their potential. You know how I felt about their offensive coordinator. I was really never, I'm not really sold on Bryce Young. But they didn't play well last year. So yeah, I am kind of surprised because they didn't play well.
Okay. What about you, Jeremy?
I'm actually not surprised because that's a team that just seems to put a lot of players in the NFL because of the system they have in place. Yes, they had a down year, but they also didn't have as good of a starting quarterback as they usually have. Bryce Young, I like him, but there's something about him that I don't like.
A lot of people are projecting to be a new pick. So,
and I don't get it. I don't get it. I like the way C.J. Stroud looks as a quarterback better than Bryce Young.
I do too. I mean,
that's just me.
You go back to that Rose Bowl a couple of years ago, and he was throwing it all over the lot.
And he did it again this year in that championship game. It wasn't his fault they lost. Noah Ruggles shanked a clutch kick.
Okay. Well, we'll turn it over to Will.
I could see both ways. First way, yes, because Alabama's been producing players in the NFL for many, many, many years because they're multiple-time national championship, and look who their head coach is, Nick Saban. Also, they did have a down year, but I'm leaning towards more yes because they have a talent pipeline system that brings guys in the NFL. Every year, it's double digits, whether it's 10, 11, 12, 13, so on. It's what Alabama does best.
Okay. Candy?
So I'm going to say no, it's not a surprise. Currently in the NFL, they have 71 players, the highest out of all schools in the NFL. So does it surprise me that they have more going to the combine? No. Yes, they had a down year, but a down year for them is not making the Final Four. I mean, that they still were way up there. They still finished, very well. but they didn't win it all. So we think it's a down year for them. So yeah, we come to expect that they're going to have a lot. Do we always expect them to have the top? No, not necessarily, but it's not a surprise to me.
Well, you know what, Candy? Ditto. Period. We move on to 12 invites. Georgia. All right, Mel, we'll start with you.
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, they were, from opening kickoff, season kickoff to the end of the year, they were the best. They were the best football team. I mean, they played with a reckless abandon. Kirby's done a heck of a job as far as recruiting, and he's getting the most out of those guys, getting the most out of those players. So no, it doesn't surprise me that they have 12.
Okay. Jeremy?
Not a surprise at all. Back-to-back national championships. What else can you say?
Will?
I'm not surprised either. Like they said, back-to-back national championship. Kirby Smart is a heck of a coach. I think this team is got a bright future with him as a head coach. And I think they're going to keep on plugging in NFL talent for years to come, along with Alabama and some other big schools.
Okay. Candy?
Not a surprise. The back-to-back championships, that they've been doing it with their players. Why wouldn't those feed into the NFL? I mean, they had success in college. Those are the what feeds into the NFL. That's what NFL are looking for.
Well, again, I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm a man of a few words after these first two. No surprise whatsoever. They're building a heck of a program there. Kirby Smart, Will tipped it, doing a nice job, and he's beating his mentor, Nick Saban. So what else can I say? Well, now it gets a little interesting. I already got off easy with 13 and 12. But now we go on to 9 invites, and there's 4 schools that fall into that classification. One of them is the Florida Gators. The other one's LSU Tigers, TCU, and Michigan. So we'll turn it over to Mel. Those are your 4 in the 9 category.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one that jumps out is Florida. In that list, having nine invites, that tells you the type of talent that people think that they have there, and they're not playing up to that talent. And that's a problem for a coach, as far as being able to keep his job. LSU, I think, is only going to get better. TCU, that doesn't surprise me. They were in a national championship game for a reason. Michigan, Jim Harbaugh is doing a great job up there recruiting. They're playing well. They were in the Final Four. So it doesn't surprise me that they have 9 players. I mean, the only way you get there is it's not about the coaches. You got to have horses. Nick Saban has to have horses. Kirby has to have horses. It's very difficult in football to get there with just one star player. You got to have some help. Basketball, Larry Bird can carry you all the way there. Football, I don't care who he is, he's not going to get you to the promised land. We've seen a lot of great players who've been drafted number 1 overall, whether it be offensively, defensively, whatever, and their teams, have not won it all. It takes a team to do it, so you got to have some talented players in order to get that done. And you can't scheme your way through it. It's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmy and the Joes. You got to have the horses.
Jeremy?
I'll piggyback off of that too. You can have the greatest coach in the world, but if you have a bad roster, you're not going anywhere. We've seen it many times where guys switch schools and their level that you're used to seeing them at when they were at the big school, they go to the other school and it just falls apart. It happens all the time. Now, if you've got somebody that's doing great at a small school and goes to a big school and does good, that's a testament to his coaching as well as the horses he has on the team. But Florida is the only surprise to me. I don't know how they have any wide receiver in this combine because all of them were horrible. And that's why their quarterback had such a bad percentage as well.
Yeah, but he's a sleeper in the draft. They're talking about,
Oh, I know he's good. That's not what I said.
I don't know about good. I mean, I
haven't seen he's good. Projected to be good. How's that? Because they're saying
I haven't seen good on the field. I've seen flashes.
Yeah, I saw flashes here. He had one good game against a ranked opponent.
Yeah, I've seen athleticism. I see a lot of, tangibles. I don't know about the intangibles, but I certainly haven't seen the production on the field.
Right. I mean, 56% completion percentage is not good.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson is definitely a project for sure. But, whoever gets this guy, they could have a very good developmental guy. All right, well, go ahead.
I agree. Starting with Florida, yeah, Florida's the odd one out. I saw things, speaking of percentage, like completion percentage. There were two other quarterbacks who had really low completion percentages who were drafted in the first round. Kyle Bowler, 19th overall. Ryan
How'd that
Leaf,
work out?
2nd overall.
How'd those work
Not
out?
well. Not
Wait,
well. But anyway, Michigan, no surprise. Harbaugh's a heck of a coach. They've been in the Final Four multiple times. TCU was just in the national championship. Sure, they got blown out, but they still have a lot of guys who are coming out to the NFL. And then the other one was, what was the other school? I'm sorry.
LSU.
LSU. Like you said, Mel, only getting better from here. Only getting better from here because LSU a few years ago was on top of the world. They took a back step, but LSU, I think they're coming back slowly but surely.
And Will, who was the second quarterback you mentioned? I didn't catch that.
Ryanleaf.
Oh, God.
Oof. Oof. Oof.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too, Mel.
All right, well, that's all right. Well, if anything, you contributed a hashtag to this show. So, all right, good one. But anyways, Candy, talk to me.
So again, going back to active players in the NFL right now, LSU has the third most. Michigan is 6th. Florida is 7th. TCU doesn't have as many. They are way down, but it doesn't surprise me because they had the success that they had this year. And people look at success now and translate that to let's invite them and see what they can do. And can they have a good combine?
Well, the only thing I'll say about the whole thing is number one, winning gets you to the combine because we all know that's a ticket regardless of coach, and that's a testament to the players. And the only thing I'll add to this thing is the Florida Gators do surprise me a little bit on that list. LSU, TCU, and Michigan, to me, they're a foregone conclusion that they really definitely want to go out there and be there. So, okay, very good. All right, so let's talk about 8 invites. And there's only 2 in that category. Got Clemson and Ohio State. Now we'll turn it over to Mel.
Yeah, no, I mean, Clemson, he's done a great job there recruiting. He's built a great program, and he recruits very well. Ohio State, they've been recruiting very well for a long time. That's one of those blue blood schools. So it doesn't surprise me at all that Ohio State has 8 players that have been invited to the combine.
Okay. All right. You know what, Jeremy? You get to read the comment in the chat room, then you get to put
All
in
right.
your.
Travis Holmes says everyone wants their project to be Josh Allen, once in a generation improvement. But more often than not, those first round projects become career backups or worse. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely on board. Okay, so now let's talk about Clemson, Ohio State, Jer.
Well, Ohio State, they made it to the playoffs for the national championship. They're always right there on that cusp of being great again. But they're lacking something. I don't know what it is. I don't think that team gels as well as it should around their coach and the players they have, because you can see it. Like in that Michigan game, they look very discombobulated that second half. Then they did the same thing in the second half, having a lead and blowing it, and ended up losing. But everybody expected them to Georgia. Nobody expected that game to be that close.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely gave Georgia a run for their money. All right, well, go ahead.
I'll start off with my favorite team, Clemson. Clemson, looking through their coaches, Dabo Swinney built a foundation. They've had a lot of draft picks in the last few years. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, you know them all. He's built a foundation. He's made Clemson the king of the ACC. Ohio State, up there with Michigan as one of the best Big Ten schools. Ryanday is a heck of a coach, and they've always produced NFL-ready talent, from the Bosa brothers to other defensive players to offensive players. Both these schools are prominent football schools, so I'm not surprised they have 8.
Okay, Candy.
I'm not surprised. Let's face it. These are teams that recruit well. Those are when you're a high school football player, where do you want to go play? You want to go play for a college and a coach that have bred a lot of people, a lot of NFL players, because that's your dream, is to keep going. So you're going to go to the colleges or the schools that you feel will give you the best prospect to get there. And so Clemson, Ohio State, these are ones that have been up there and they've had a lot of success and maybe not the Alabamas, but they're, they have the success. So yeah, that's where they're going to want to go. And that's where they're going to catapult to their career to the NFL.
Yeah, and I'll say this much. Number one, we all know Clemson and Ohio State put people in the NFL. And now you have two other leagues. But the only thing to say about Ohio State, once upon a time, they thought they were going to put 100 points on Michigan. Well, how did that work out? Lose 2 in a row to the Wolverines. That's all I have to say about it. So, all right, let's go on to 7 invites. Maryland, Oklahoma, Penn State, and Tennessee. All right, Mel.
Yeah, I'm very surprised about Maryland. I wouldn't have suspected Maryland to have that many guys invited to the combine. I know Loxley is doing a lot of things to that program. He's recruiting well. I guess he's probably implementing the Nick Saban philosophy over there. So I'm happy. I mean, that means that when you're doing that, it tells you you're doing something right. At least tells the school you're doing something right. If you have guys that the NFL are looking at, you got to make sure you have the production on the field. You got to make sure that that's translating to wins.
Right.
Oklahoma, those are Riley's kids.
Right.
That were there. Obviously some kids left and went to other schools. We know that, but those are the kids that he recruited to Oklahoma that wanted to play for Oklahoma. That's what they want. That's what they committed to Oklahoma. They didn't commit to Riley. So it doesn't surprise me. Obviously, their play that doesn't match that. They didn't play very well last year. First time head coach there, Brent Venables. I don't know, how that's going to work out with him as being the head coach over there, how long that's going to last. And who was the last one? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Well, you have Penn State, you have Tennessee.
Yeah, Penn State doesn't surprise me. James Franklin does a great job over there recruiting. Penn State's a tough out, always. Tennessee, they were very competitive last year. Beat Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. One of the Alabama's losses last year.
Yep.
Had a quarterback that was in the running for the Heisman, ended up getting hurt. So no, it doesn't surprise me, and I think it's good for Tennessee fans. I think it's good for the SEC, particularly. I think Tennessee plays in the North, if I'm not mistaken, the East. I believe they're in the East, SEC East. So, have somebody that can compete with Georgia. Because Georgia's just been dominating the East. The West is pretty competitive now. You look at what's going on in the West; they're pretty competitive with LSU. With Lane Kiffin over there. God rest his soul, Mike Leach was there. They made it competitive over there. Arkansas is playing well, so they need some good teams over in the East to make that side competitive. Give Alabama, a run for. Give Georgia a little run for their money, and so that Georgia knows that each and every week that they're going to have to bring their A game.
Jeremy.
There's really not a surprise. Penn State has been linebacker U. They put a lot of defensive players into the NFL. They occasionally put an offensive star like Saquon Barkley in the NFL as well. Tennessee, with Hendon Hooker, when they were in, they were electric. They were on fire. They were beating almost everybody until they ran into that buzzsaw known as the Georgia Bulldogs. It's a good group. I don't think there's a surprise there.
Well,
Oklahoma, Brett Venables adopted Lincoln Riley's team, like Mel said, and kids, when they go out west, want to play for these schools like Oklahoma and Texas and other big schools like that. Maryland, that's the shocker to me. I wasn't expecting that at all. Penn State, James Franklin coaches these guys well. They're one of the premier teams in the Big Ten. And then Tennessee, they bounced back like crazy. Like, everyone was shocked. Like, Hendon Hooker had a heck of a year, was a Heisman finalist until he got hurt, and beat Bama. And Tennessee was playing like Tennessee of old with Peyton Manning. But yeah, the one that shocks me the most is Maryland, for sure.
Candy.
I agree. Maryland throws me for a loop. I was really surprised, but you know, Big Ten are sending 63. ACC is 83. So that's a lot, from the Big Ten. So where are they all coming from? So you already mentioned Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. So there's got to be, a whole bunch yet coming from some of the other schools. So the Big Ten played tough. They have good offensive linemen normally, and good defensive guys. So that was my surprise out of that group though.
Yeah, all I'll say is Maryland is my surprise, and Josh Heupel is doing a really good job in Tennessee, and I think the future looks right for those folks over at Rocky Top. So, all right, let's go to 6 invites. This one gets pretty interesting, so we'll continue moving forward here. All right, Mel. Auburn, Cincinnati, Oregon, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati is now going to the Big 12, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see what happens a year from now. But for present tense purposes, once again, I'll repeat them again: Auburn, Cincinnati, Oregon, and Pittsburgh. Where are you going with this one, Mel?
Probably my surprise out of that would, Auburn didn't play very well last year. But, Auburn traditionally they get good talent in that school. Kid grows up, that's all they want to do is they want to play for Auburn, and so that kid's going to go to Auburn regardless of what's going on at that school. Cincinnati, you look at what they've done over the last few years. They play very, very well. Now Luke Fickell, I think he's left and gone somewhere else, but they've done a great job there. You look at the Rookie of the Year on the defensive side of the ball, Sauce Gardner. I believe he was a defensive back there at Cincinnati. They're getting some talent in there, so it doesn't really surprise me. They're getting some recognition nationwide, so it doesn't surprise me that they have that many guys that are invited to the combine because they, I think last year I think they were in the Final Four, right? They went to the playoffs. So,
right.
So obviously, again, you don't get there because of the coach. You get there because you got some horses. So there's still a few horses left. Still a few horses left there, even though the quarterback ended up, going out, leaving, getting drafted. So, you had a little change there at the quarterback position that might have hurt them. You said Cincinnati. You said
Oregon,
and Pittsburgh.
I don't like Oregon. Pac-12 team. Oregon, they're Nike. So, no, it doesn't surprise me. Kids want to go there just so they can get all the gear and wear different uniforms every week. So, no, that doesn't surprise me at all. Pitt, no, they played very well last year. So, it doesn't surprise me that they have, 6 invites you said? That doesn't surprise me.
Right. Well, turn over to Jeremy.
I think Oregon was a little bit of a surprise just because they did start out so rough and getting blowed out like they did by Georgia.
Yeah.
They have a couple of players that were invited where the games I watched, I didn't know if they'd get an invite. And they were ones that were supposed to be surefire first round talent to start the season. So some of those guys I'm not as impressed with as some of the others are. Pitt, they've been doing well. They are very competitive. Cincinnati shows that the new coach is trying to stay in line with what Luke Fickell was doing, and maybe they'll get him back to that playoff type of team. I really don't see any surprises there at 6. It's interesting, but I don't see surprises.
All right, Will.
So Auburn, that's a little bit of a surprise because they, like Mel said, they didn't play well last year, but they just got Hugh Freeze from Liberty University, which is huge. That's
right.
a huge signing for Auburn, and I think it shows for years to come that he could produce some pretty darn good NFL future talent. Cincinnati, like you guys said, the new coach is trying to do what Fickell did, and Cincinnati a few years ago when they had Ritter, they had Pierce, they had Sauce Gardner, they were a good team. They were a fun team to watch, and I think they're in the American, if I'm not wrong, the American Conference.
Who, Cincinnati?
Pittsburgh. I'm sorry.
Cincinnati's actually heading to the Big 12, just so you know.
Right.
Okay.
That's okay.
Pittsburgh.
But yes, they were part of the American Athletic Conference. How I think about it.
Yeah. Pittsburgh. They were a fun team 2 years ago when they had Kenny Pickett. They won the ACC, and they're one of the good teams in the ACC, along with Clemson, Chapel, and a few others. Oregon, I'm a little surprised. Like Jeremy said, they got blown out by Georgia in the opening week. We didn't know what to expect from this Oregon team, but Bo Nix helped them turn around. They won a bowl game, and they turned a lot of heads after that. And yeah, Oregon's one of those Pac-12 schools that always contends with USC and the other ones.
Okay, Candy.
Oregon has 28 players currently in the NFL. Cincinnati has 23. Who were the other two?
Pittsburgh and Auburn.
Right.
Pittsburgh has 22 and Auburn has 25. So they're all right around that same middle of the road. So, all being the same grouping, I don't see a surprise either. And Mel, just so you know, Luke Fickell is coming to Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, that little school up there. Right.
Yeah, that little school up there.
That little red and white school in the Big Ten.
No, so we're talking about Pittsburgh. We're talking about Pittsburgh. They had a defensive tackle. He's 6'1", 281 pounds. He ran 4.67 in the 40.
Yeah, I'm looking at that stuff. I've got the 40 times brought up.
The guy they compare to Aaron Donald.
Wow.
That Clancy. I don't see it, but
I'm just saying because
the potential there. The potential is there, but I don't see it talent-wise.
Stature. That's all. I mean, it's all because of his stature. They got to get They have to get some type of.
But wait, that's actually a verified 4.67.
Yeah, it's 4.67. Yeah, they have to get some kind of comp. They have to have some kind of comp.
Yeah, the one I'm waiting to see go verified is the edge and the linebacker out of Georgia and Auburn. It's Nolan Smith and Owen Pappy. If those stay where they are, or Pepo, however you say it, 4.39 they ran.
Oh, really?
Wow.
The only
really.
Was Nolan the one that was hurt?
Yeah, he was the one that was hurt for the national championship, the one that wears the glasses and looks like a Harvard student when he's standing on the sideline. Very intelligent guy when I've seen him in his interviews. I was intrigued by him because I saw that I said last year the way he played in the national championship versus Alabama, he'll be better than Will Anderson this year, and he was while he was on the field.
What was wrong with him? I forgot.
I believe it was the MCL.
What's his name?
I think he had a pec or something, didn't he? Or some kind of.
There was a couple of them that had injuries there at Georgia, and one was an MCL, one was a pec. And if he's the pec, that's fine. Either way, he's running now, and he's running fast, and it's a verified 4.39 for Nolan Smith.
Okay, the only thing I'm going to add to this before we go on to the 5 invites is in this group, Auburn surprises me if for no other reason the coaching situation being in disarray last year. Otherwise, the group is sound, but anytime you have a midseason coaching change like you do, then you wonder how they're going to play. And bear in mind, wasn't it Cadillac Williams that took over on an interim basis for him, and he got him to play hard. So, I always wonder how midseason coaching changes are going to turn out. And I know that they have retained Cadillac Williams, and like you mentioned, Will, Hugh Freeze was a good hire. But it's an interesting group, and that's why I'm really shifting toward Auburn in this group. But that said, let's go over to the 5 invites. I've got a lot of them, so we'll just try to isolate 1 or 2 in this thing in an effort to try to move it along. I'll list you the ones that I have on my sheet. Okay, you have Arkansas, Louisville, Ole Miss, Purdue, Iowa, South Carolina, Texas, South Carolina. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the horn here and go to each and every one of you. Give me 2 surprises if there are any, or 1.
Out of the ones you just mentioned?
Yeah, because you rattled them off so fast that I didn't even catch them all.
Well, everybody accused me of doing fast, and that's why when I get on the road, ain't no stopping me now. Then
how many invites?
You said surprise one, right?
5.
Biggest surprise.
5 invites.
Okay.
Right. So we're on invites 5. I'm going to mention the names again since my speed obviously went to my vocal cords. Okay. Arkansas, Louisville, Ole Miss, Purdue, Iowa, South Carolina, Texas, USC. Was that better pace?
Yeah. I hear that.
I'm just kidding with you. Go ahead now.
What was the last one?
USC.
USC.
Oh,
Yeah, you don't like it anyways.
The one that probably surprised me is Louisville, out of the ones you just mentioned.
Okay, Jeremy.
I agree with the Louisville being a surprise, and possibly even USC, because they didn't quite play as good as I thought they would. They struggled a little bit. I mean, yeah, they won a lot of games, but if you watched them, they were close games and comeback victories and stuff like that, where they had to grit it out. And that's a sign that the only guy that I thought really deserved a shot from USC was that defensive lineman with the record for most sacks in a career in college right now that nobody's talking about, and I can't ever say his last name. It's Tua, and it starts with a T. I'll just say Tua T.
That's good enough. All right. Well,
Biggest surprise, Louisville.
Okay. Andy?
The same, Louisville.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to ever say that any SEC team is really a surprise, so I'm not going to go that route. But, I tell you what, though, the one that actually surprises me in this one is actually Purdue.
Purdue?
Yeah, I think Purdue. Yeah, well, yeah, that's called the Jeremy-ism. Okay, but I'll differentiate from every one of y'all and go with Purdue. All right, let's go to the notables with the 4 invites. I'll list them as slow as I can so Jeremy doesn't say you're too fast. Okay. Ready? Okay. North Carolina, Kentucky, Iowa State, Notre Dame, Stanford, UCLA, Utah, Illinois, Kansas State, Northwestern, Minnesota. All right, Mel.
Oh, UCLA. I mean, we should have more, without question. That surprises me. There should be more. We should be, 6, 7. So yeah, that surprises me that they have that few invites to the combine. Obviously, Northwestern, that's about right. I mean, that's probably what they've been doing, for the last number of years. Again, he's doing a great job. It's a tough, very difficult school to get into, and you have to really be a student athlete at that school, not an athlete student. So that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it surprises me that UCLA has that few.
Well,
I'm appalled.
Little piece of information about Northwestern. It's one of the best journalism schools in the country, and and Brent Musburger came out of there, and a bunch of others. But I know
Mike Greenberg as well.
I thought Syracuse. Everybody talks about Syracuse.
Yeah, but
Wilbon.
Yeah, but you're right. Brent Musburger and Mike Greenberg, and I think this Cassidy Hubbard lady also came out of there too.
Out of Northwestern.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did actually, now that I think about
it. Tirico, he's Syracuse.
Well, yeah, and Missouri would be another one. My mother, for the lack of sense of direction that she really knew many years ago when I graduated from high school, wanted me to go to Missouri, but I'll bet you she probably didn't know where it was. But rest in peace, Mom. That was a good educated, uneducated advice for a woman that was a very good hairstylist. Okay, so rest in peace, Mom. At least I got you in the show. But all right, go ahead, Smoking.
The 2 that surprised me, and I agree with Mel, it's UCLA and Utah, both. I thought they'd have more, both teams.
Okay, what about you, Will?
I actually agree with these guys. UCLA has produced NFL talent for years. Utah, I thought would have more too because they had a heck of a year, and just it's weird. Yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay, Candy.
How can I argue with the rest of them? But I also would say that, we think of North Carolina as a basketball school, not necessarily associated as much with a football school. So I guess I would be a little surprised that they have as many as they do.
That's the same thing like Maryland. I mean, that's a basketball school. UCLA is too.
Just a quick question for Mel Farr, because he knows something here. 10-yard split and broad jump deals with the player's explosiveness, correct?
Right.
Nolan Smith and Owen Pappoe, 1.52. Both verified. And their broad jumps, neither one of them made it towards the top, but they're up there, 10.6. And Nolan Smith, trying to get to his real quick. He might not have done it. And if I'm right, if he didn't do that, then I know that I was right. His was the knee injury off of Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't do the broad jump.
Let me mention mine two very quickly. I'm going to go actually Northwestern and Illinois. Us journalists, we're really known for reporting on the news instead of. And Pat Fitzgerald has a tough job there. He really does. The fact that this is a school that once upon a time, I believe, Ara Parsegian coached at. And Barry Alvarez, didn't he come from there too, Candy? I believe he came from Northwestern, now that I think about it.
I'm not sure about
I
that.
don't know. We'll let her crack research, but I'm going to go with Northwestern and Illinois. Brett Bielema is doing a good job. I can see that number increasing as Bielema goes on. So, all right, we go to the next classification, 3 invites. This is where it gets really interesting, especially since I was choosing them, and there were probably more, okay? But these are the ones that stood out. Wisconsin, North Dakota State, Nebraska, Houston, BYU headed to the Big 12, Texas A&M, BYU, and Boise State. I'll go ahead and say mine last. All right, Mel, what do you got?
Go ahead, repeat those. I'm sorry, I was looking up. He had a torn pec, like I said, but go ahead.
Okay.
No problem. That's okay. Wisconsin, North Dakota State, Nebraska, Houston, BYU, Texas A&M, and Boise State.
Well, there's a couple that just don't sound right there, right?
Right.
Obviously, I mean, North Dakota State and Boise, they played some good football. That 1 year when they beat Oklahoma, but I really haven't heard anything since then, to be honest with you. Whatever it was, Fiesta Bowl they played in, I think it was against Oklahoma some time ago. I believe it was Oklahoma, but North Dakota State and Boise stand out. I mean, they just jump at you. That they have, some guys that were invited to, which tells you a lot about what they're doing over there as far as they're able to recruit a few guys and develop some guys, get them in the program and coach them up and get them ready for the next level. Have an opportunity to play at the next level.
Okay. All right, Jeremy.
North Dakota State. Them making it up there out of Division II. It's amazing for those small schools to get that many players an invite. And I think it would be an honor to be from a small school and get an invite like that.
All right, what do you think?
I know Hunter's at Hunter Lepecki. He's a fullback / running back. I like him.
You might be looking at a guy that's probably a day 2 or 3 pick, one of those hidden gems is what I'm thinking. All right, well.
Like North Dakota State, like these guys, these small schools, Division II schools, basically get putting out prospects. It's like Jeremy, like Adam Thielen went to Mankato State, which is really small in Minnesota. But yeah, North Dakota State, I know we've had the Trey Lances and the Carson Wentzes, but it's like Mel said, or Jeremy said, it's an honor when you come from a really small school and you go to the NFL. There was a guy from UNC Charlotte who made the NFL a few years ago. And I was like, wow, UNC Charlotte. And they're not known for football.
Mississippi State Sun Devils. Come on. Mud Dogs. Mississippi State Mud Dogs, right?
No, I thought they're Bulldogs, aren't they?
No, I'm talking about the smaller one.
Oh, okay.
The one that Jerry Rice came from.
He went to
I'm trying to remember where.
He went to Mississippi.
Yeah, I know which one.
Valley. Yeah, Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi Valley. I know it was the Mud Dogs.
Okay, well, he knows now he has Mississippi Valley.
That was HBCU, so that was a little bit different. They are Division I.
Okay. All right, Candy.
I want to go back to your Barry Alvarez. He actually played for Nebraska. He was a Cornhuskers.
He played, but didn't he coach?
He coached there as well.
Right, that's where I was leading. Okay, so
there's not much difference between Nebraska and Wisconsin, other than it might be a little colder up in Wisconsin.
and they're big.
Yeah, they're big. Yeah, they're big guys.
Right.
Yes.
So, yes. Candy, give me your choice, Candy.
I would say the same. I mean, North Dakota State, 3 invites is still better than, but I would say the same as what they've all said, because none of the rest of them, I mean, you're getting down there, 3 invites. It's an honor to, get invited. So how many on these teams are at the point that they're ready. Because let's face it, the Alabamas and those are getting your one and dones or your two, your 2 years, whereas some of these stay longer and then they get the invites.
Okay. All right. I'm going to throw all of you for a little bit of a loop here. Okay, you ready? Texas A&M 3 is low. They should have had more. They should have. And I'm going a different direction. That's why I like to listen to y'all. Nebraska, by tradition, should have more. Okay, they really should. And Wisconsin, by tradition, should have more. Enter the coaching change. Now, I expect the numbers of each of those 3 schools to improve next year. But for those 3 institutions, 3 seems a bit low as far as I'm concerned. So take it for whatever it's worth. I know where everybody was going. You want to go, and Florida Atlantic is starting to pick up a little bit of ground too. They made a pretty good hire with Tom Herman. We'll see how that all plays out. Two more classifications, and these are the ones that stood out to me. 2 invites: Miami, Michigan State, Kansas, Wake Forest, Appalachian State, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Washington. All right, Mel.
Yeah, I mean, Washington kind of jumps out because Washington traditionally has a pretty good football program, does a really good job in recruiting. Obviously, Miami jumps out because I grew up in that era when Miami was dominating the college football landscape, and they were today's Alabama.
Wasn't that the Catholics and convicts era?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I covered them earlier than that.
So
the program was on my support.
That kind of surprised me, but I'm sure Mario Cristobal is going to get start recruiting, and I'm pretty sure that's going to change. And we're also going to see that change. Change is going to show on the field as well. Michigan State, that kind of surprised me because I know that a lot of people picked them to play a lot better than they did, and they do a very good job recruiting all over the country. And for them to only have that few combine invites is surprising, but a lot of it has to do with how well they played on the field, and they didn't play very well this past year, unfortunately. Right. So obviously professional teams aren't flocking there to go look and see what kind of talent they have over there, because based on the performance, obviously they probably didn't have too much talent over there. But it does surprise me because Michigan State traditionally has a pretty good roster of football players, and as far as a pipeline to the NFL as well.
Okay, Jeremy.
Well, Michigan State was no surprise to me because I saw a lot of them being here in Michigan, and they did not look good. And the wide receiver and the D tackle that I see going there, they deserve their invite because those are the guys that played hard the whole season. That being said, Washington, Oklahoma State, and Miami. Those are the 3 that stand out to me because they should have had more. I think they are better teams than what a lot of people give them credit for.
Well,
I agree. Miami and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State had a very good year until the wheels came off. And then Miami, like Mel said, surprised, but because Cristobal's there now, I think Cristobal's going to get guys going into the NFL, and that expect that number to rise steadily as he continues to coach this team.
Candy.
Well, to give you a glimpse of what it is right now in the NFL, there are 28 players from Miami that are in the NFL. If you go down to Michigan State, there's 18. So obviously, to me, Miami being there is a surprise that they didn't have that good of a team on the field. They need to do better recruiting. They couldn't figure out which quarterback they were going to play with. So all of that plays into it. And then they had a lot of injuries too. Right. So a lot of that goes into some of these combine invites as well. So is it a surprise that they had so few, but yet they have so many in the NFL? Give Cristobal some time. I think that's going to change.
Yeah, well, we both saw the Hurricanes a lot last year, Candy, for sure. So I'll go with Miami. Obviously, that number is going up. I'm not sure what direction Michigan State's going. I need to see another year under Mel Tucker to determine whether that number is going up or down. And Jeremy alluded to the 2 best players that deserve a shot and will likely play on Sunday. Anyways, it's always good to see Appalachian State get a couple in there. But the wild card here is Kansas, okay? And Lance Leipold is doing a really good job over with the Jayhawks. And this guy, for a lot of people that don't realize, he coached Buffalo, got them on track, but he also won lots of championships at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater, I believe, Candy.
That would be correct. Go Warhawks.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you right now,
Water.
Lance Leipold here, to me, probably could have gotten a Nebraska job if he wanted to. But the reason he chose not to take it is he wants to build a legacy for himself at Kansas. More power to Lance. This guy, to me, I am going to be tracking his program quite a bit. So, yeah, as I mentioned, Miami will get more. Michigan State, I'm not sure about. Appalachian State's always a good story. And last but not least, I'll say it once again, Kansas and Lance Leipold are really heading in a good direction. Looking forward to seeing more. All right, the last classification is notable one invite. I mentioned some interesting names here. Arizona State, Indiana, Army, Air Force, Florida State, Liberty University, San Jose State Spartans. Yes, another Spartans team. And Rutgers and UCF. All right, Mel.
Well, I don't think there's anything that really surprises me there. Maybe Indiana, they played a little bit better this year, I think, than they have in the past, I think. But there's no real surprises there for me.
Okay, Jeremy?
I didn't hear a single surprise.
You didn't?
Because every team's going to get somebody an invite eventually. And those are all teams that don't fare well in their conferences. And the military ones, they hardly ever go to the NFL.
Well, there's one guy that's going this year.
Yeah, that guy out of Army, Andre. Yeah, Andre Carter, the second or third or whatever it is. Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot.
No, we know his dad.
Do we?
We do.
Who's his daddy? Anthony?
Senior.
Oh.
Okay.
All righty.
I will turn over Will.
I think the biggest surprise, but it's not really a surprise, is Florida State, because for years they ran the ACC. They ran the ACC up and down, left and right. They owned Clemson until Clemson got Dabo and they started recruiting better. Florida State just hasn't been the Florida State of old with Bobby Bowden days and the Jimbo Fisher days. They have not been those good of teams lately. And I'm not surprised, but they just haven't been that good in years. So there's no surprise in any of these.
All right, Candy.
So, Will, to your point, Florida State has 28 players currently in the NFL. Army has 4. So, yeah, there's a big discrepancy. Like, it's just not the same team. They haven't built it the same as they used to. No surprises.
Okay, you know what? I'm loaded here. Number one, to me, Army and Air Force are a surprise because you may have one invite, but how many of them are getting to the NFL because of the military rule that you're not allowed to go?
They changed that.
Yeah. Biden signed into the law that they can defer it till after they get done with their careers now.
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, but they got one. We'll just see whether they're able to do it, but that's good to know. But the other one that intrigues me is Liberty University because Hugh Freeze left there, and they were really on a nice run there for a while. And yes, Florida State is going in the right direction with Mike Norvell, I believe, Candy. Okay, so that's going to change next year. I like where they're going. So it's good that Biden has changed it. I'm really glad. If I recall correctly, didn't Donald Trump, I think, initiate that he wanted to do it, and then Biden carried it out?
Yeah, him and the powers that be drew up the bill, and it got dragged and hawed about until now.
Okay.
I think it got passed back in October or November is where I saw it was passed.
Okay, so it initiated, if I recall correctly, with the former president, and then Biden finished the job. Well,
I think it got extended or something like that, but it's in jeopardy, though, past this year. Yeah, it is in jeopardy past this year because I know that was a problem because at the end of the year, they weren't certain. Andre wasn't certain if he was going to have an opportunity to play because it was in limbo. But it got extended for one more year because otherwise he would have left last year or he would have transferred. He would have transferred and went somewhere else so that he could go to the NFL. But they extended it. But it is in jeopardy next year, though.
Yeah, and the only two military players that stand out to me are Napoleon-McCallum, I believe, out of Navy, and Roger-Staubach. And so that's the infrequency for which you're going to see militaries. That's why I mentioned the military ones intrigue me.
Well, when we Scott, when we were much younger, I mean, a lot of players from the service academies played in the NFL. That's where a lot of great players, there's Heisman Trophy winners that came out of the service academies. Now, no, not so much.
Yeah. One of the guys for the Ravens a few years ago.
In the old days, that's where a lot of the guys came. The service academies were strong in the old days.
Well, let me also put out another nugget because we have parting shots in a moment. Okay, Bobby Ross, when he left the Lions, coached Army for a period of time too, and well, he did. Jeremy,
I know.
Besides the fact that he did, okay, I mean, he did. Now, how he did, save it for another episode. I want to get to parting shots. That's more worth our while as we fire up at the top of the hour when this show completes. But the reality is with Bobby Ross, and they've had a lot of good coaches in the military for sure. So, and I remember on the basketball side, didn't Bobby Knight go ahead and coach in the military? And I believe
did,
Mike. Yeah. So, I don't want to get off topic too much. All right. What we're going to do now.
Didn't you coach in the military too, or he was assistant coach there or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Coach K was there too. So, so you do have some good military coaches there. So what we're going to do, since a lot of people are seeing this for the first time, you guys anyways, except Jeremy and Candy, they know it. We're going to have, everybody has their own parting shot. We all get an opportunity to comment on that parting shot. So with that said, Mel, lead off.
Okay, Jeremy, I want give you two. I'm gonna give you the stats of two individuals. I want you to tell me which one's in the Hall of Fame. All right, he got a Super Bowl. This guy played 18 years, Super Bowl champion, his first team All-Pro once. He was 4-time second team All-Pro and a 7-time Pro Bowler. Okay. This gentleman played 20 years, 4-time second team All-Pro and a 7-time Pro Bowler. Which one's in the Hall of Fame?
The second one.
It was a trick question, right? So the second one is Jackie Slater.
Mm-hmm.
First ballot Hall of Famer, right?
Right.
The first one is Lomas Brown.
And he should be.
Why is he not? Why is he not ever?
The Detroit hate. The Detroit hate. Come on now.
Why has he never been a finalist for the Hall of Fame? Me and
he played here.
My brother were looking at this last week and we couldn't understand it. I immediately got on my computer and emailed a couple reporters that I knew up in Michigan and demanded that they do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a slap in the face to us Detroiters. Now, what I need you to do is because anybody can nominate someone for the Hall of Fame. You have to mail a letter to the Hall of Fame. So I need you to mail a letter to the Hall of Fame nominating Lomas Brown, and to see if we can't get some.
You know who else I'm throwing in there? Think about it. 3-time All-Pro, 3-time leading wide receiver in the NFL, played on the same team as Lomas Brown. Herman Moore,
yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what, though? Let me tell you this. I worked with Lomas Brown when I was covering the Lions, and he's a Florida Gator, too, just so you know.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he is.
And Lomas and I had a lot of fun because, obviously I have a big history in the state of Florida now in Lomas, so it's pretty neat. And I got to know him real well. I think I have his number in my phone somewhere, but I know he's busy. At some point, maybe I'll try to reach out to him. But, yeah, Lomas Brown definitely belongs on the Hall of Fame. So are you classifying that as your parting shot, that Lomas Brown?
Is it.
Okay. All right, Jeremy, comment on it.
Lomas in the Hall of Fame.
I want to get Lomas, Herman Moore. He deserves to be there for what he did in his short time of career. If he could have played as long as Calvin Johnson wouldn't have had a single record as a Lion.
Okay. Calvin played 9 years, right?
Yeah.
And Herman played. He played a little
6.
A little longer. He played. That's all he played was 6. I thought he played longer.
No, remember he got injured, went to Buffalo, and then got injured again and retired.
Another guy that deserves consideration is Kevin Glover.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Okay, Will?
My parting shot is...
No, Will, you comment on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was confused.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Lomas Brown should be a Hall of Famer. Steve Smith should be a Hall of Famer. There's a lot of guys who should be Hall of Famers, but they're not.
That's okay. All right, Candy.
I agree. Put him in.
Yeah, no complaints. I'm always going to be biased toward Lomas Brown. I work with one of the classiest people on the planet. I believe he does broadcasting. I think he does broadcasting with the Lions. I think he's alongside of Dan.
There's a radio. Yeah.
Yeah, right. All right, Jeremy, your parting shot. And guess what? We got work to do afterwards, and Candy might be drafted into this next episode too. So
yeah, everybody can be wowed by the quarterback class that is coming out right now. They should really start paying attention to this edge linebacker group that's running right now. We have 11 players with a sub-verified 4.5. Okay. And most of them are DNs, not linebackers.
Okay.
That's huge. Because what is the one thing you need to improve a bad secondary? A good pass rush.
Right. Okay. All right. Well,
what do you think, Bill?
I agree 100% what he said.
Okay. Fair enough. Candy?
I think you look at the whole body of work. Yes, you look at the combine, but you also look back at some tape too and make the best, decision for your team, what you need. But don't lose sight of, what these guys are doing.
Okay. Mel?
Yeah, guys, I mean, the people that make the money are the quarterback and the guys that get after the quarterback.
Right.
So when you have that kind of speed, that kind of straight line speed, and you're going against a big 300, 330-pound lineman, he's got to go backwards, and you're running forwards. I mean, that's tough, man. That's tough. But I saw that Lane Johnson, he ran like a 4.7, if I'm not mistaken, the offensive lineman from the Eagles. But yeah, I mean, that's impressive.
Okay. All right. Well, I concur. You need to be able to go after the quarterback these days and make life very miserable. I remember the one gaffe the Lions made on a draft day was when they went out and traded for, was it Pat Swilling, I believe, and New Orleans got Willie Roaf. They didn't quite work out, but boy, when I was covering the draft, Wayne Fonz had his cigar out there raving about it. He wasn't raving about it when he didn't have a job 2 or 3 years later, but nevertheless, his intentions good.
Put Joe Smith's number back in the circulation.
Yeah. His intentions were good, but unfortunately, it didn't quite work out because I think Willie Roaf ended up in the Hall of Fame. All right, well, let's go to your parting shots.
I think Pat Swilling is too, isn't he?
I'm not
this didn't do much for the Lions. It was at the end of his career.
Right. That's true.
Okay, look for these hidden gems in sports, the small school guys. Damian Lillard, Weber State. Mankato State for Adam Thielen. All sports have it, and don't judge a guy by the school he goes to. Just judge him by his character, his work ethic, his integrity, his well-being, his just career, like his whole body of work, I mean to say. So it may not be in Alabama. It may be a Mankato State, which is a really small school in Minnesota. So, yeah, don't judge by school or basis like that.
No, that's a good – I like that one, Will. All right, Candy, respond to Will.
I agree. I mean, yes, your Alabamas and your ones are the teams that get the most people in the NFL. But sometimes that doesn't mean that they're the best player. Look at the whole body of the work for the individual. Look for somebody that you want on your team that's going to complement your team as well. And someone that also, let's say, face it, is going to be coachable and represents your team the way you want them to.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about what Will's comment is, never heard of Walter Payton? Guess what? It was really good. Out of Jackson State. End of story. Well, Mel?
Well, to be fair, the competition at Jackson State at that particular time was a lot better than what it is right now. There was a lot of guys. I mean, that was a pipeline to the NFL. That's where a lot of guys got their opportunities to play, particularly at the quarterback position. Was at the HBCUs, but the competition was a little bit different then. I would say that you got to judge the body of work, and I understand that there are some hidden gems in some of those schools. I remember when I was in college, there's a guy named Joe Dudek. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they're talking about Heisman Trophy. You know, what the heck? Why not Dudek? They had a whole campaign going to have Joe Dudek play in the win the Heisman Trophy, and I had the pleasure of playing with him when I was in Denver. And there's, you know, I can't remember what school he went to. Gordy Lockbaum. There's another guy that they're talking about Heisman. You know, he broke all of Walter Payton's records, I think it was, at some D2 school. And sometimes, you know, sometimes there are some people who, like Josh Allen, who people just miss. And then there's sometimes, you know, you just have a great career at a smaller school, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And maybe you get a shot in the NFL, and maybe you're able to parlay it into something. And maybe you don't. That's fine. But, you know, there's a reason why Alabama has the number of players in the NFL that they have, and Georgia has the number of players in the NFL they have. Michigan has the number of players they have, and so forth and so on. There's a reason. They're a pipeline. And the surefire way, or one of the best ways to get there, is to go to one of those big schools, one of those big brands, one of the blue blood schools, if you want to get to the league.
That makes sense. Okay. The only thing I want to add before I turn over to Jeremy, Joe Flacco, University of Delaware, Blue Hens football.
He started somewhere else, though.
Yeah, I thought he started at Pittsburgh, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know what? Nevertheless,
I never liked Joe Flacco because he left Pittsburgh and went to Maine. I never liked that.
All right, but nevertheless, I can't
compete at Pittsburgh.
I can't change the history books. All I can say is he did go to Delaware Blue Hens, got an opportunity to play. As a result, ended up playing. All right, Jeremy, yours, and then I'll finish it up with mine, and then Candy will take us around for introductions, and we can close it out. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I do agree with Will there about the small schools. It's a great way to get a pipeline of players that not a lot of people look at. Another guy I want to talk about, the kid out of Incarnate Word. I wish I could remember his name right now, but it's the quarterback out of Division II that made it to the semifinals last year.
Okay.
That kid threw for and rushed for a total of 70 touchdowns in a 12-game season.
Okay.
Wow. What's his size?
He's 5'11" and 220.
Okay. Well, again,
so he may be short, but he has a good frame.
Well, I guess the whole narrative here is just mainly hidden gems is really all we have to really figure. Hidden gems and small schools. All right. I have a very interesting parting shot, and this actually is one that I really kind of like.
Wait.
Good Candy.
Can I get my parting shot?
Yeah, you do.
I'm sorry. What are you doing,
all right,
Scott?
Candy. That's all right. She checked me at the gate. I'm just kidding.
Boy.
I'm messing with Candy. You know that.
That's
I
not
knew
right.
I'd catch her going. Go ahead, Candy.
So tomorrow,
but I need a replay of the wait. Give it to me.
Wait.
All right, go ahead, Candy.
So tomorrow night, the 32nd Vince Lombardi Award of Excellence is going to be given to none other than NBA announcer Ernie Johnson Jr. He's going to be honored. He was selected for his efforts in raising awareness for cancer and spreading good word into the world. In 2003, Johnson was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma and shared the news. His openness around the subject of cancer has impacted millions of people. He actually grew up in Milwaukee and now announces for the NBA. He's a well-known sports personality and a multi-sports Emmy Award winner. He's most known for his role on TNT's Inside the NBA, NBA TV's Fan Night, and NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship. Johnson has touched and inspired many with his vulnerability in talking about some of his most impactful and hardest challenges in his life, including losing his father, adoption of 4 children, including one with special needs, one of them dying, and him being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma and prostate cancer. Kudos to them for picking someone of his magnitude, because he will be a very good spokesperson.
He's a class act.
He is.
You know what? I was messing with you, Candy, not getting to it because I knew what it was anyways with Ernie Johnson. But the only thing I'll add about Ernie Johnson, though, is I met him last summer at the National Sports Media Association. Great. Spent some time with him, Charles Barkley. And Ernie Johnson is as nice in person as he is on the air. So, you know, Ernie Johnson, well-deserved. Now, my parting shot, or do I have to wait?
Wait.
Yeah, there you
Just
go.
kidding.
I'm like Andy. I get to do it a lot. All right. Well, my parting shot is pretty straightforward. Please, that former Michigan Wolverine Brian Griese, who led the University of Michigan to a national title in 1997. Last year's as he ended up, he was last year 49ers is mainly on staff. So he's a quarterback coach there. All I can tell you is John Lynch is really happy that he's coming back, and he served 13 years as a TV analyst. So you want to talk about a guy that went from the broadcast booth to a quarterback coach, and then he ended up going on an elite team, and then is able to develop Brock Purdy, and we'll see what he does with Trey Lance. I think they're getting another veteran. Brian Griese, kudos. I'm glad once you left Monday Night Football, okay, that you landed in an even better place, San Francisco. Good stuff, Brian. And of course, we all know, okay, that he's the son of Bob Griese. I'll get to you in a moment. Well, we're going to go around the horn with that. All right, Mel.
So your parting shot was
Brian Griese.
Brian Griese.
Yeah. Brian Griese, returning to 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he did up there, he wasn't far away from football announcing, so he's always close to it. He was still in touch with a lot of people, coaches and things of that nature. There's a past relationship, I believe, with Shanahan, him, being in Denver, and so yeah, I mean, the work that he did with Brock Purdy, I mean, that's to be commended. I mean, most guys aren't that successful as he was, and it just says a lot about him and the work that he put into it. And, we'll see what he's able to do with Trey Lance next year. I think that's great that they have a guy that's dedicated to that position to help these guys progress. I think that's very, very important, especially somebody that's played the position, and he played it at a fairly high level as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. Brian Griese, to me, I've learned a lot listening to him on television. But the fact that he was able to go from the booth over to a QB coach with an elite franchise, to me, was certainly worth bringing up tonight. Okay, so all right, Jeremy.
Interesting tidbit. Do you know that Brian Griese is the only player that his senior year won a national championship and got a ring with the school, and as a backup and came in and played it down, has a Super Bowl ring when he backed up John Elway?
Very good. I like that.
Only player in NFL history to do so.
All right.
It
has a national championship his senior year and his rookie year to get a Super Bowl ring. Only player in NFL history to do that.
Great stat, Jeremy. We get a lot of great stats as we have more and more people on the crew.
That being said, I love that Brian Griese's still in football and that he landed where he did. He deserves to be in football. He came from a football family and he has a football mind.
Beautiful. All right. Well, go ahead.
All I would have to say is, boy, I bet his dad is smiling because his dad was an awesome quarterback. Yeah. Brian was good. Brian was all right. But you know what? He helped develop a potential young star in Brock Purdy that we all were like, who is this kid? He's probably not going to do anything. And made us all look stupid. So good for you, Brian Griese. Loved you on TV. But you know what? I'm happy you're doing something that you love to do.
Okay. All right, Candy.
He stayed in football, for better part of 55 years. He knew that that they were going for a bigger fish on the broadcast team because they brought in Troy Aikman. So he knew. So he sat and had dinner with Shanahan, and they talked to the football coaches, and Kyle saw something in him that he wanted, and he was like, you know what? Let's go for it. So good for him.
Yeah, saw it right on the wall, and look where he's at, doing a marvelous job out in the Bay Area. So that concludes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. I want to go over some of the particulars here real quick. That Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. One of the things that Candy told me, a place called Geo7 also carries it as well, and we get some listeners there as well. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. We appreciate every one of you that has subscribed. We look forward to more of you that will subscribe. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at mail.com. If you want to advertise, call 954-304-4941. We'd love to put the name of your company out there while we go out there and work hard to deliver the strong content that we work towards delivering every show in and out. So with that said, Candy, take it home and well, first of all, let everybody know how they get a hold of us. Go ahead.
You pretty
Mel?
much just did, but
All right. Well, all right, Mel, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
On all the social media, the Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, at Melfar Jr. You can follow what we have going on for your young folks down here in Atlanta and also up in Michigan at melfar.org.
Okay. Jeremy, you and I got more work to do immediately after. You're going to get to do it twice. Do it once.
Yay! No, just kidding.
See how you feel about we'll see how you
That
feel
being
about
said,
ours somehow.
you could find me on the southfloridatribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading as one of the authors and consultants for Scott here. You can find me on any one of his shows any day of the week because you never know when he's going to yank my chain and say, I need you, bud. That being said, you can also find me on my channel twice a week, usually Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B. I do shows on Wednesdays and Fridays. Wednesday is my NFL show. Fridays are my Lion show. Check us out. Trying to grow just like this show. I need to get to that 1,000 too. So please check us all out. Make sure you like us. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share.
All right, Mr. Vogel, you're up next.
Well, first off, I want to thank Scott for having me on this wonderful show with this awesome panel. I'm truly blessed. Let's just say on Sunday nights, you can find me on Basketballs with Scott, Jay, Jacob, and Dom. On Wednesdays, you can find me on Kneecap Biting with Jeremy B on his round table. Mondays, I forgot to say, I am one of the newest members of Fire Up Michigan. I'm thankful for that. Thursdays, I could be here. I could be, most of the time, I'm on the Sip Off hosted by Megan Price. And Fridays, occasionally, I'm on the Gauntlet.
Well, Vogel, your second act was just as good as your first. All right, Candy, take us home.
Appreciate it, sir.
So you can find South Florida Tribune on Twitter at Tribune South. You can find our content on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you email us some ideas, you could possibly be a guest on one of our shows. You can hear us on wherever you get your podcast, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google. You can hit that red subscribe button for us, like and share it. We're striving to get more and more. And, your friends might like us too. So if you want to subscribe or sponsor a show, you can call us 954-304-4941. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Well, I want to thank my crew for doing an outstanding job. I know this episode ran a little longer than most, but when you're breaking down the NFL draft combine, we want to do everything we can to be as thorough as possible. And when it comes to these type of shows, I don't really go out there and put a whole lot of cap on them because there's a lot of information. My goal is to make sure that we educate, inform, give you the best analysis that we can. We did our best tonight, and we look forward to bringing Inside the Pigskin back on. In about 2 weeks, we'll do this show twice a month during the off season. We'll pick it up in late summer and in the fall. So on behalf of Candy Ebling, Will Vogel, Melfar Jr., and Smoking Jeremy B., my name is Scott Morganroth of Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have another broadcast shortly, so hope you can join us there. But meanwhile, thanks for spending your time with us tonight. Good evening, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next broadcast. Good night now.